So you'd never know it looking how bright it is now, but we just had one of those flash hailstorms that made me run and hide here on the porch. Had to stop working, so I'm going to take a break and film this video for y'all. So this week we are talking about elements. What's our take on them in general? Do we have an affinity for any of them? How do we use them in our practice, etc. So elements for me for a long time were very important. They were the framework that I used to sort of understand, to conceptualize the world and to make decisions. So I thought of them, I used fire, water, wind, earth, and then spirit. I liked spirit, and I do like spirit, in fact, as a way of seeing where those elements meet, where they come together, the relationship between them, and that is where you find the dance of life and death and regeneration. But elements, I had values associated with each one and sort of general ideas of nature. And different cultures and different groups, depending on where you live in the world and what influences you often assign have different associations with that, and often the directions are tied in with the elements as well. So for some people, the West, like for me, the West was always a very fiery feeling because where I live we have these incredible, beautiful red sunsets. But I know a lot of my friends who live in California, for instance, on the coast, the West is associated with water because that's where the ocean is. I would associate the elements and the directions with, as I mentioned, values like intellectualism or um, calmness, compassion, love, things like that. And so as a tool for decision making, I would think about, okay, this decision I'm about to make, or I'm thinking about making, how does that go through each of the elements and say, okay, so how does that impact each of the elements and the things that I ascribe to that? And then the more physical things, like a decision, if I was making a decision in terms of a garden practice or where I was going to live or what diet I was going to eat or things like that, how does that impact the air? How does that impact the rivers, the water, all of that? So I keep using the past tense, and it's not that I don't still like elements as a framework, but there are other frameworks that I am using now, and I don't want to get too in depth with that. Actually, I'm just going to tease that because we're going to be covering that in a future topic coming up pretty soon. I'm not sure, I'd have to go back and look at what week exactly it is, but late spring, I think. So I'm really looking forward to sharing that with you. And I will get into what framework I use now and what decision-making process and sort of cosmological view I have on that. So that's this week. I think it's actually turned out to be nice and sunny again, and somewhat dry. Not that it ever was very wet, so I think I'm going to get back to work. And I will see you next week for a video that, again, I'm not going to tell you what it is, but I'm going to be doing a lot of prep for that one and can't wait to share it with you. So until next week, take care.